All right, welcome everyone to a Friday edition of the Solution Breakdown. I'm Mark Baker, and we'll get into a few things here. One thing that I saw on one thing that I saw last night, uh, you have a Cincinnati team. They were definitely a big topic in the offseason. Sitting there and 3-8. Without Joe Burrow, they're 1-8. Every reason to sit there and say, Joe, you don't have to come back. Like, there's no point. Even if we win out, we probably are not going to get in. And you know what? Like, I just, football's a very bizarre sport. Um, Cincinnati's defense, which, against Chicago about 3 weeks ago, I mean, that looked like probably one of the worst. Like, I was watching the worst defense that I've ever seen assembled. Like, I've never seen something that bad. It's like they're flying around the ball, they're forcing fumbles, they're making Lamar uncomfortable. Like, sometimes you can't explain these things. Sometimes in football you can have all these sort of analytics, and sometimes it just comes down to when you've got your general, when you've got your commander in chief, uh, it just changes everything in the building. It's not like they had a Cowboy situation where they brought on Quinn Williams, they brought on George Pickens right before the season. No, this has primarily been primarily been the roster that we've seen throughout the year. And just sometimes when you have your guy out there, it makes the difference. And I give credit to Burrow. Uh, he didn't need to come back. He didn't need to come back. But the reality is that the Bengals, with how they do business, was especially in March and April, was a big matter of a big topic of conversation. And there was that, at the Super Bowl, that round table, Joe Burrow was like, the Eagles are paying all these guys, you know, why can't we? So, on top of that, it's a matter of just, hey, like, if you can salvage this season in some type of way, whatever you can do. I give credit to Burrow. You could have shut it down and just been like, this is not our year. Uh, I mean, it's what we want to see from our professional athletes. It's like, hey, if I'm healthy, if I'm able to go, if I'm able to play, doesn't matter if we're 1-14 or we're 14-0. It's, I'm going to go out and play, because now holdouts have become such a common thing. Guys don't report. Guys hold out. We've had multiple cases of, like, I refuse to play. I refuse to play for you. Let's not forget Lamar had a situation like that a couple of years ago. And to see a guy, you know, have no, there's no financial reason. He doesn't need to play. He's not in a prove it year. He's not in a big contract year. There is no reason to play other than, I love the game, and I'd love to lead this team. And I give him credit, because it seemed to have a direct effect on the rest of the team. Now, the reality is, for Cincinnati, if you win out, you're probably not going to get in anyways. Uh, because let's face it, right? Um, Baltimore, yeah, they dropped this game, but they were 1-5, and they're 6-6. So Not the end of the world for the Ravens. They're 5-1 in their last 6 games. Like, that's they're still in the thick of things, and I'll get to them in a second. And you still have Kansas City, which who's 6-6, and there are going to be some winnable games. So even if you win out for Cincinnati, you probably are not going to sniff closely. But you know what? Like, at the end of the day, it's that like, that is the definition of a franchise quarterback. It's just a shame because if you could have pulled out, like, if you could have been 5-6, you could have been 5-6. Hell, if you could have been 4-7, you might have a shot. You might have a shot being 5-7. But at 4-8, I mean, I mean, that AFC is a bit in shambles, but you have a couple, hell, I mean, I'm even a Chargers fan, and the Chargers should beat the Raiders and be 8-4. They don't have their starting tackles. Hell, I mean, Herbert's throwing to like a 45-year-old Keenan Allen. So, you know, the AFC is a weird division. It is a weird division. And to think about the possibility that Mahomes and Lamar might not make it. I I mean, if you're Buffalo and Josh Allen, you better wake up. I mean, you better wake up if you're Josh Allen. This might be your best chance to come out of the AFC. New England may win that division. They are likely to win that division unless they collapse. But this might be a Buffalo's ultimate circumstance. Their best, it's like the gates of heaven have opened up. Your chance to walk through it. Now, I'm not sure if they will. They definitely have issue at receiver. But instead of going to Arrowhead, you got to go to Foxborough to play Drake May, who's never started a playoff game. That's what you have to do. Please. Considering the fact you've had to go through Kansas City, you've had to go through Baltimore, you've had to go through Cincinnati. If I'm a Bills fan, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm like this. If it doesn't, like, I don't know if we'll ever win the AFC if we can't win it in this staggered AFC. I mean, listen, like, we don't even know how good New England really is. I mean, they're 10-2, and like we're like, they're having a pretty good year. They're rattling off some good wins. But we don't really know how good they really are. And I don't think anyone believes that they'll play in the conference championship game. If you told me that the New England Patriots are going to play in the conference championship against what, Denver and Bo Nix, you're dreaming. But that's a possibility. Because Buffalo's weakness is very clear. Which on the offensive side, it just seems like, again, that for a while it was the run game, and now it's who is he throwing to? You know, at least Kansas City has Rashee Rice, which is clearly I can see why they held on to him, because that guy can play. Buffalo side, I don't know. But it's very possible that Baltimore, Kansas City, they don't make the playoffs. Like, it's wild. Which brings me to Baltimore, and there have been a lot of talk about the Ravens' offense and about Lamar and about his. He did show a little bit more of a willingness to move around, and uh, he did have a couple good plays with his legs tonight. Um, but let's not forget the guy's getting a little bit older. Sometimes those hits can really add up. Those hits can really add up over time. I'm not saying he's lost a step. I'm not going to suggest that he lost a step. But there's other guys like that I've seen, like Donovan McNabb. I've seen Michael Vick. It become a little bit less willing to take off. Maybe when they were like 20, 22 years old. And Lamar's relatively young. If I'm not mistaken, he's not even 30 yet. And so, he's still a young guy. But sometimes those hits add up. And at times it's just like I'm not as willing to take off as I was. So, I think it's very clear that Lamar as a passer has shown that he is elite. But I think the Ravens, I mean, if you're a Baltimore team, I mean, you still have Pittsburgh again, and God only knows what's going to happen with Pittsburgh. Uh, the reality is that you're going to have to go to Cincinnati again. Uh, there's no guarantee that you're just going to wake up and be 10-7. There's no guarantee. And listen, when you're winning 5 in a row, hell, it's just like old times. But now being 6-6, like, okay, Lamar was out of a couple of games. But now that you're 6-6, you're 6-6, and now it's like, okay, that winning streak is over. We're kind of back to asking the questions of like, okay, Lamar's not getting any younger. Is John Harbaugh really on scholarship here? Like Baltimore's success. They've been better in terms of the passing game, but when you have Lamar's skill set in terms of his ability to take off, why wouldn't you utilize that? But the guy ain't getting any younger. So, at a certain point, you got to start asking yourself of like, who are we going forward? Who are we? Who really are we going forward? I think they have a good with Todd Monken, um, in terms of the passing game. They definitely have gotten away from that and from a Greg Roman style type of offense, which I think has helped Lamar a lot. But you're only going to notice in the next couple of years with all the hits that Lamar has taken throughout the years is that it's guaranteed that he's going to lose a step, maybe even two. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen next year or the following year. But you're going to just have to ask yourself is that, you know, uh, this franchise has only been relevant, one, because of just Lamar's uncanny skill set. A quarterback that's as fast as DBs, like that also has shown has shown that he can throw from the pocket. But if that athleticism and that if that speed starts to taper down a little bit, my point is that he might need a little bit more support. And that might be asking yourself is like, is John Harbaugh really the fit here? Because let's not forget. I mean, after the Ravens won that Super Bowl in 2012 with Flacco, I think that they in a like a 5-year span, I think they only had like one playoff berth. From like 2013 to like 2017, they only made the playoffs once. And then if you don't forget that in 2018, Flacco started that year and Lamar took over. And they lost to the wild card against the Chargers. And then, it's every year except the one year that Lamar got hurt in 2021, they've been in the playoffs. So, I mean, Lamar may lose a step, but if you're Baltimore, you that is essentially that is essentially the franchise. That's the guy. Even if he loses a little bit, he's still shown that he's been an elite passer. He's still shown that he's faster than linebackers, that he's faster than defensive ends. And you know what? Like at the end of the day, if you now, I'm not really sure how willing Lamar would be, saying we're going to rebuild, we're going to hire a new coach. I mean, John Harbaugh's as high profile of a coach as you could find. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that if John Harbaugh hit the market, they would go for that immediately. But I think if you're the Ravens, I think you have to look at your culture inside and out. Because look at what's happened with Green Bay. I'll get to them more. I mean, you could tell the foundation of the Green Bay Packers, like front and center. It didn't matter. Rodgers left. No, we got Jordan Love, who can be shaky at times, but what we saw on Thanksgiving is what you get from Jordan Love. Is what we've gotten consistently in the past couple of years from Jordan Love. They've built a culture on developing talent and putting guys in position where we don't need a savior. We've got what we need. And whether it's a guy that sat on the bench for a couple years, he's fine. He's fine. And I'm not suggesting that's not the case for the Ravens. But the Ravens have gotten kind of spoiled from the fact that they've arguably probably the greatest athlete of all time playing quarterback. That on most plays, guys are trying to come after him. And he's taken some hits. And he's had a few injuries. So at a certain point, it's like what's really our long-term plan? We're just gonna hope Lamar is gonna be 24 years old. That ain't gonna be the case. So, I'm happy for Cincinnati. There could be every reason for them to have been like, let's just try to get a high draft pick and whatever. They played their ass off. I'm happy for them. Let's go to the Chiefs Cowboys. Wow, that I listen when Dallas fell behind 7-0. Based off of what I saw about at this point now 5 days ago, there was no worry that I had. Kansas City with 2 plays after that Dak interception, they score. There's never a doubt that I was like, it doesn't matter if Dallas fell behind 14-0. It doesn't matter if they have the slowest first half, the slowest first quarter. Their offense can't move the ball. Just in a moment's notice. You're looking up and Dallas has scored a couple touchdowns. And like, oh shit. I mean, Kansas City scored 14 points in the first quarter. The Cowboys took the lead in the first half. And that's the thing we've been seeing with the Cowboys at the end of the day is that, like, whether it's at the end of the half or at the beginning of the second half, I mean, their ability to score points, I mean, one has kept them in games. But now when you account that, okay, you have now overshown, came back. Quinnen Williams has been an absolute monster. So you can score points. And that was never really the issue. I mean, when watching that game, I was like, we might have a 45-42 game. It wouldn't have surprised me. And Dallas can play in those kind of games. They can score quickly. So I never was, Kansas City went up 7-0. Uh-oh. Now, watching that Lions and Packers game, I got that sense of, like, with St. Brown out, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why they would they went for it early in the game. I don't know why they would do that. Just take the points. Maybe that's a little bit more on the conservative end of things. But with the Cowboys, it's that they can make up any ground. They have such a high-powered offense, high-flying offense to an extent that they can be down 24, and you know what? Like, a couple big shots to Pickens. Hell, CD had a good game. They're right back in it. I mean, Jerry got a lot of slack. And I think rightfully so, has gotten a lot of slack over the years. But hell, that George Pickens pickup, wow. I mean, you better sign him to like a 3-year deal. Like, do not let him walk. And you know what? Like, it works. And why does it work? And why didn't let's also ask the question, like, why did the George Pickens, because he had a I mean, it wasn't to the extent that he had in the Philadelphia game, but he's still bald. I mean, that guy, I was someone was telling me this yesterday. It's like he does not let that ball hit his body. He's a great hands catcher. Like, catches every ball with his hand. And the one in the beginning of the second half, he let hit his stomach. Yeah, he dropped the ball. It's like, dude, you gotta catch the ball with your hands. I mean, Jerry gets a lot of slack, but George Pickens has been a great pickup. And why? Why has that been the case? Well, I think in both games, you know, we kind of saw those afternoon games, those classic Thanksgiving games with the Lions and the Cowboys. We both saw it was like George Pickens is kind of like a bit of an NBA player, has his own type of personality, uh, is kind of like a one on a pretty good one-on-one player. Um, like he has his, he kind of operates on an island within itself. I mean, literally. Um, and so does Micah. Uh, one of the things with George Pickens that I do think work is that one one when you have a Dak Prescott, who is probably the most professional quarterback you could. I mean, like that is like the model of what a professional quarterback looks like. He's gotten a lot of he's taken a lot of heat, and rightfully so. There's been a couple of of bad performances in playoff games where he's looked a little bit pedestrian. Um, I mean, but I mean, Mike Tomlin was like with George Pickens, yeah, nah, we don't want this guy in our building. And everyone's like the Cowboys, like, oh, you're gonna pick this guy up. And under the guidance of Dak, not only this guy is balling, he stayed relatively quiet. This guy is an absolute baller. And all he's needed is stability and just a sort of like a constant professionalism to be around a good model of what it means to be a leader. Watching Dak Prescott tonight, I'm just like, like that looks like the league MVP because nobody thought people were like the Cowboys are going to win 5 games. Hell, hell, if they can beat the Lions next week, I mean, their toughest game would be after that point is they have the Chargers at home in late December. And that's their toughest game. Dak plays well at home. If they can beat Detroit, which Detroit is scrambling a little bit. And they can beat Detroit. I'm not saying that they is it likely that they'll run the table? I don't think so. I don't think that it's likely they'll run the table. Hell, it's possible. At 3-5-1, I was sitting there being like, you might go 7-9-1, and that wouldn't be bad. You get 2 first round picks this year. Hell, you traded for Quinn Williams. That's been, I mean, he's in the backfield. It feels like every play. I mean, even if you went 7-9-1, it still would have been. There's still a lot of optimism. Now you're talking like hell. It's a possibility that the Dallas Cowboys could be in the playoffs. Now you're gonna have to have a couple things that you're gonna hope you need to hope happen. And listen, like some of these teams that are in the playoff mix right now play each other. I mean, Seattle's going to play San Francisco. They need to play They need to play them. They need to play each other at the end of the year. The Bears are going to play the Packers. I think they play the Packers twice. And again, the Bears play today, which that's going to be that's a tough game. And you know, with the embarrassing loss that the Eagles had on Sunday, like, like they're going to be. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they came out buttoned up and they beat the Bears decisively. I mean, I saw the line. The line for that game was like 7. So what Vegas is saying is that, listen, we think the Eagles are going to bounce back and they're going to take care of business. So you still have the like there are some potential L's for the Bears today, and most of their games have been one-score games. Maybe that magic wears off. Maybe that magic wears off. They go 10-7, or they go 11-6, and they lose a couple games down the stretch. You're the Cowboys. You can win out. You've got potential. There is a potential. Now at this point, I don't think not Cincinnati, Seattle will be at that point. But Sam Darnold can get pretty erratic sometimes. You never know. There could be a couple games down the stretch. I don't think the Cowboys are out of this. It would not surprise me at the end of the year if they found themselves at the 7 seed. It would not surprise me in hell if they were able to get the 7 seed, and which would be unbelievable, considering the fact that you also have 2 first-round picks. And also with a coach that everyone was like, "Oh, this guy's a bum." Has never been a head coach before, hasn't been considered of being a head coach for 10 years. Well, it's clear that this guy, I was watching a show, and this guy, he's really big on, if you're a new coach, whether you're a defensive or offensive coach, do you do your side of the ball well? And yeah, yeah. I mean, Dak Prescott, I mean, has looked surprisingly mobile this year. And he ripped his hamstring off the bone. He's looked surprisingly mobile. Not only have the Cowboys have sometimes have swung big on some players that ultimately have not looked great. But Javonte Williams, like, we were watching it yesterday, and just like, I mean, he's always moving forward. I mean, he's like a cloud of dust and a 3-yard gain type of player. You never feel like you always feel like you're getting some positive yards from Javonte Williams. I mean, he has been greatly utilized. And you have, of course, you have CD, and then George Pickens. I mean, hell, Ferguson's been playing well. I mean, perhaps we were wrong on Brian Schottenheimer, because he was also, you know, he also was. He was also the offensive coordinator in Seattle with Russell Wilson for a bit. Let's not forget uh, he was the offensive coordinator with the Rex Ryan Jets, and they had the number one rushing attack for 2 years when they went to the AFC Championship game. And he didn't really want to he turned down head coaching opportunities for a lot of different reasons. But it's very clear this guy does his side of the ball well. And listen, Eberflus on the defensive side, yeah, he took a lot of heat. And yeah, I mean, in terms of a head coach, it probably was one of the most disastrous, kind of like a Rich coach type of situation. Guy's way over his freaking skis. But I give him credit of what he's done with that defense. All around a positive win for the Dallas Cowboys. They seem to have a bright future. Um, I mean, I would not have at this point, watching the game on opening night back in early September. I would have not have guessed in hell that the Dallas Cowboys would still be in the playoff mix this late in the year. So, congrats to the Cowboys. Um, I don't have a lot to say on the Chiefs. Uh, the reality is that the foundation is still there. It's just that, like, were they a good team last year? Yeah, maybe they were, but I don't sense that they're worse than they were last year. I mean, there were times and there's flashes where they they are the Chiefs that we know. I mean, hell, like the third play of the game, and Spags calls a blitz and baits Dak to throwing that pick. That's a classic Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, hell, look, Kareem Hunt was like, I mean, like, you turn back the clock with Kareem Hunt a little bit. Kelsey in moments, still has that ability to make plays. I mean, outside of Rashee Rice, I mean, the Chiefs have looked as they've looked before. They were 11-0 in one-score games. Just the reality is, it's like this is the reality of the NFL. Is that it's really, really tough at this point. They've drafted well. They've gotten a lot of good discounts on players. But sometimes that runs out. And yeah, it's still clear that Mahomes is still an elite player. And it's still clear that at times the Chiefs are still what we know to be the Chiefs. But again, it's just it's really tough to have that same level of success in a lot of close games. I saw someone was like, "Well, they're in a lot of close games. The problem is they're in a bunch of close games." Yeah, I mean this is what they've decided to become after letting go of Tyreek Hill. Was definitely and definitely influenced a lot of this. That they knew that they were gonna probably get cheaper at wide receiver. They were gonna have to get a little cheaper at corner. Outside of Chris Jones, they were gonna probably have a lot of guys that they could get for a little cheaper. They kind of have that New England feel. Yeah, you might not get paid to such an extent, but you're part of a winning culture. But that's what happens. That you play in a lot of close games. And it's been unbelievable that it's been this way. But even from the days of the Patriots to now with the Chiefs, and the quarterback play in this league has gotten so much more and detailed that eventually you're going to get burned. You sit around and you play in a bunch of close games. Eventually, it's going to come. It's going to come back to haunt you. And so, I mean, I'm not going to sit around and be like, "Oh, it's over." And I mean, I saw, they'll run the table and maybe. I mean, there are definitely some winnable games for the Chiefs. They still have a couple of division foes at home. If I'm not mistaken, they still have to play the Raiders again. I mean, they can pull out. They still have 3 division games at home. 2 division games at home, 1 against the Raiders. It's possible. It it really is possible. But it also is also very possible that they're 9-8 and looking on the other side. And that playoff picture is going to get a little tough. But let's not forget. Look at who is currently in a position to get a wild card seed. Well, you got Jacksonville, you got the Chargers, you got Buffalo. Buffalo against a reeling Pittsburgh team. They've had 10 days to prepare. I imagine they should go and win that game. You also have Jacksonville. Jacksonville's playing Tennessee. Now Trevor Lawrence has been a little bit shaky. I mean, they've done a hell of a job. That's a conversation for another day, but you imagine they should beat Tennessee. The Chargers have the Raiders, and the Raiders are a complete, utter directionless franchise. Like, the Chargers should win that game, which would put Kansas City 2 games back with 5 to go. Very, very doable. You also have a game at home against the Chargers. And also, you know what? Like, Kansas City plays well at home. So it's possible. But after this weekend, it's gonna get a little more tough. And also you have a and let's and also another thing that I almost excluded, which is I mean, hell, how about the Houston Texans? I mean, CJ Stroud's been out, but even when he's been in there, he hasn't been great. They're sitting there over 500. I would have never believed that the Houston Texans would be over 500. They're one of the best defenses in the league. Kansas City still has to go play Houston. It's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. So, yeah. Listen, can't expect them all. It can't expect to go 11-0 in all one-score games. So, but great win by the Cowboys. Tough loss for the Chiefs, but you're not out of it. Which brings me into the first game, which I'll say this: Micah Parsons is a hell of a player. It's kind of like an NBA player, and you saw the negative effect of that in Dallas, laying on the trainer's table. I mean, Jerry was like, I've in 35 years of being an NFL owner, I've never seen something like that before. Yeah. And everyone, the reaction was, how do you let go of this guy? I mean, it's very clear that the Packers are getting exactly who Micah Parsons is. Now, the greatest strength could become the greatest weakness, but I'm not going down that road. Listen, the Packers are 8-3-1. The Packers, in terms of a football culture, probably one of the best cultures in all of football. They don't have an owner. They've shown in the past, even with what's his name, Ron Wolf. They draft well. They develop well. What they needed was a game changer. What they needed was that was like a closer in baseball. They needed that guy to just seal the deal late in games. And it's quite impressive. Because last year when Green Bay went into Detroit was wheeling and dealing on fourth down. Look at a year later. The Packers are wheeling and dealing on fourth down. And they were making the Lions look very uncomfortable, which they couldn't do last year. Which is why when they went 1-5 in division, they couldn't make, whether it's Sam Darnold at the time, Jared Goff, they couldn't make those guys uncomfortable. And when you put Micah Parsons in that rotation in the defensive line, it just looks like a different team. It looks like a team that knows, hey, we can win the conference. Hell, we can win the Super Bowl. You could just tell it's a team that looks like they see the bigger picture here. I mean, we just watched two different teams have two different directions. The Lions are now having to ask themselves, like, St. Brown's probably not going to play on in the Thursday game against Dallas. Laporta's out for the year. John Morton, their offensive coordinator, got play calling duties stripped away from him. The past couple of weeks, Jared Goff's looked very uncomfortable. I mean, he's still a great. I mean, I would still call him a top 10 quarterback, but this is the problem. He can't move. He's a dinosaur. I mean, I watched Dak today, and Dak was feeling some heat. Spags was dialing it up today, but you could tell that. Dak, even with his injury last year, I mean, he looks like he can move pretty well. Just Goff really can't. So, the Lions have become one of those teams that if everything doesn't work well, like a well-oiled machine, they're vulnerable. I mean, it's one reason why they're 7-5. They've got the roster. They've got the coach, the quarterback. But they've developed this culture of everything has to go right. I mean, hell, look at the Cowboys. I mean, look at look at the Cowboys, what they've gone through. And look at what Green Bay has gone through. I mean, that was a moment for Matt LaFleur. I mean, that saves his job. I mean, a couple weeks ago, it's like, after that Monday night loss against the Eagles, I'm sitting there thinking, like, uh-oh. Are they really going to fire him? And I didn't really believe that, but it's like, they're really going to fire the guy? But the Lions are a little bit of a concern. Because Jared Goff has shown that he can sling it like anyone in this league. But it's like when St. Brown goes out, Sam Laporta's out. Well, like it just doesn't look like the same offense. I think it was what Graham Glasgow. He wasn't the center. He wasn't playing. Like the Lions have shown, what they've shown is that like they definitely don't look like the same team when everything isn't perfectly in order. The Lions are perfectly healthy. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. Now, if you guys are out and you're like, I don't know. I mean, hell, like the Chargers are one of those teams that I mean, they could make the playoffs without their two starting tackles. Like I've never seen like they have been in terms of offensive line injuries have just been like completely ravaged. Cincinnati a couple years ago went to the Super Bowl with probably the worst offensive line. That was probably the worst offensive line that went to a Super Bowl. So this is the nature of the NFL. I think the Lions have an issue on their hand, and I don't think they'll see it if they make the playoffs. But again, you got a Dallas, you got Dallas coming to town. Like that's going to be a tough game because not only can Dallas score points, their defense has gotten a lot more better. Their defense has gotten a lot more buttoned up. They've picked up a few guys. A couple guys have gotten healthy. I mean, you can tell this is one of those teams late in the year I don't want to play. This is kind of a do or die, a must win game for both these teams coming up. You know, and we didn't think that Dallas was going to make the playoffs, but we had kind of expected the Lions to make the playoffs. This is going to be a kind of a really awkward, very awkward off season if they don't make the playoffs. If they can't come out and win and make the playoffs, and if they don't win this game, they're likely out. They're likely out. Just with the pace in which the NFC has gone, they are out likely. But I don't have a lot to say on the Packers. I mean, Matt LaFleur pretty much put his job on the line, and that's what you have to do. I mean, hell, Wicks had a great game. I mean, Jordan Love's touch. I mean, sometimes he'll stand on his back leg and he'll just fling that ball up. I'm like, wow, like it's just unbelievable. But looking ahead, we got Eagles Bears today. Yeah, I mean, this is do I expect the Eagles to win today? Yeah, I expect the Eagles to win today. But in terms of their operation, and I've said this before, you would sit around and be like and complain about the coordinator. But you don't have a Jared Goff. Hurts definitely is mobile. He's and he has shown at times he can throw from the pocket. He has struggled at times, but also he has an element that he is mobile. But the problem with the Eagles is that you do you really have a coach that you really can trust taking play calling duties back? He did in his first year, and yeah, they did make the playoffs. And I think this guy gets a lot more slack, and Sirianni gets a lot more slack than we probably should give him. I saw something. He's like he's like 55-22. Like that's as good as it's gonna get. And he's also a Super Bowl winning head coach. But I think at a certain point, it's that with a lot of, I would say a lot of the a good amount of a good amount. I mean, you just watched with Kansas City and Dallas, two play calling head coaches. Doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. It's like when you have a head coach that can call plays, and you have a quarterback that has shown that it can be elite, you're fine. There are a few circumstances like Buffalo with a defensive head coach, Lamar with technically a defensive head coach. It is very dependent, but you have an offensive head coach that can take play calling duties back. My point is that we keep calling this guy elite, and Jalen Hurts. He's a Super Bowl MVP. But I don't know. Just week after week, it's like there are times that he has shown that, wow, he can be a top 5 quarterback. And he's shown. Then at times it's just like it just doesn't see the field very well. He's not great from the pocket. There are times he hasn't had good touch on his deep ball. I think that they'll be buttoned up enough in which that they'll win today. But I think long term, if you don't win the Super Bowl, it's the question is more of like, do you fire Sirianni? Probably not. But I probably want him to take more role in the offense because he is an offensive coach. It's not like we have a defensive coach here in Philly. Instead of being like, we need to go find the right coordinator. Because like most hot coordinators, they eventually become head coaches. Whether or not it's going to work as a head coach or not, it's like they're going to become head coaches. They're going to get that chance. So, it should be a good game today. It should be a good, my eyes are more on the Eagles than they are the Bears. The Bears have had a good season, but I don't think no one in our wildest dreams would ever have thought that the Bears would sit there and be 8-3. Would be able to conceive of that. And that's why it's like at the end of the day, I've been seeing a lot of Super Bowl predictions. Rams, Broncos. I saw one that was Rams, Broncos. So you mean to tell me that a Broncos team that is are clearly very talented, but has shown clear struggles on the offense, clear inconsistencies from the quarterback play, that in January, that's not going to become an issue? The AFC is filled with a bunch of teams that I don't know if I want any part in. I mean, we just talked about Kansas City having to win out. Let's say they win out and they have to go to Denver. Oh, God. Oh, God. I don't want any part in that. I wouldn't want any part in that if I'm Denver. Especially at times when Bo Nix has been erratic. So I always find it funny of like, we never thought, we would have never thought the Bears would be 8-3. We all like, oh, they're going to lose to Pittsburgh. Well, you don't know that. That's why I just think it's funny when I see Super Bowl predictions, and of course they're the number one and they're the number one seeds in the conference. Well, in the nature of the NFL, injuries happen, shit happens. I don't know. I don't believe Jacksonville's going to go and play in the Super Bowl, but crazier things have happened. And in the AFC especially, I don't buy New England. I don't buy New England. I think they've benefited from a fairly easy schedule, and we all knew that they were going to have a fairly easy schedule. So this is why I love football. You know, at the end of the day, it's like Bears are 8-3. And I think most people thought they were going to be 8-9. I think that's impressive. And these next couple of months, these next 2 months, going to be kind of wild. So we better strap up. All right. Well, you know, I think it's time for me to get out of here. It's been a great show. I'll be back next week. And thank you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Like and subscribe to the Hardcore Sports Network to watch this show and other great shows that are on this network. Again, it's been real. I've been Mark Baker, and I'll see you next week. Take care.